Under moonlight, Grand Cathedral stands silent as ominous wind sweeps through empty halls. Inside, dark stairway hinting someone suffers below endlessly. Behind iron bars, chain boy Ryun bleeds heavily. White-haired noble grips him, observing calmly while testing endurance. Ryun lifts his head, eyes burning with resolve despite overwhelming pain still. Noble smiles faintly, then suddenly drives blade into Ryun. Ryun screams violently as blood pours down, body trembling while chains rattle loudly. Noble declares cruel truth about his cursed birth, enjoying boy's resistance and spirit. Exhausted, Ryun pleads for death, yet his determined eyes reveal lingering will survive. White-haired noble mocks Ryun, dismissing his words. He considers extracting power from Ryun's blood, but grows bored with repeated suffering. Noble celebrating destruction of Ryun's family while leaving him broken. Moonlight shines through window as Ryun kneels, blood pooling beneath his weakened body. Ryun recalls past glory of Sermon family, once protectors against relentless monstrous invasions. Memories shift to battlefield where warriors fought fiercely. Monsters swarm violently from Dark Zone, overwhelming defenders despite desperate resistance and sacrifice. Amid chaos, Sermon warriors charge bravely, cutting enemies while maintaining their unmatched reputation. Suddenly, leadership vanished and family collapsed quickly, leaving Ryun alone in Ruin House. Phaeton rises against Sermon, seizing chance to destroy weakened family completely. Ancient blessing of dragon blood granted Sermon descendants immense power. Gifted heirs became archmages and swordmasters early, strengthening family dominance. Ryun reveals he lacked blessing, cursed instead by Demon King Arkan bloodline. Because of curse, Ryun could not wield swordsmanship or magic. Thus he became weakest heir, isolated and scorned, while family expectations grew heavier. Noble mocks Ryun again, claiming torture unnecessary if Ryun were stronger from beginning. Ryun accepting fate calmly as exhaustion overwhelms his failing body completely. As life fades, Ryun senses approaching death. Ryun's chest bursts with energy as strange power awakens within. Tears fall from his eyes as he finally accepts death and seeks peace. Darkness consumes him completely, yet an unknown force begins pulling his soul elsewhere. Ryun awakens surrounded by violent energy. Facing monstrous entity, he stands despite fear, confronting the entity as his cursed power reacts uncontrollably. The entity strikes violently, sending Ryun crashing down while energy surges around battlefield. A radiant golden figure appears above, observing Ryun and the chaotic clash silently. The figure raises power, unleashing devastating force that engulfs entire area in destruction. Explosions erupt violently as energies collide, signaling Ryun's fate changing beyond death entirely. A divine voice promises Ryun a wish as golden light descends upon him. Servants urgently call him, and Ryun suddenly awakens. He realizes surroundings changed, his body restored. Ryun sees familiar maid Colin, noticing her youthful appearance. He demands a mirror, desperate to confirm identity while confusion overwhelms his thoughts. Seeing reflection, Ryun discovers younger self, realizing time has reversed to childhood. Ryun asks current date, seeking confirmation about strange situation. Upon hearing year, shock strikes him as memories align with past timeline. Exactly. Ryun concludes he returned to age 12, understanding this moment marks everything beginning. Ryun recalls exact moment when Sermon downfall began. He remembers Phaeton's betrayal and divine voice offering wish during family destruction chaos. Now awakened earlier, Ryun realizing he returned before everything collapsed. A man enters room calmly, drawing Ryun's attention. Ryun recognizes him instantly as Alejandro, captain of Sermon Knights from past timeline. Alejandro observes Ryun carefully, noting unusual behavior. He suggests resting, assuming Ryun remains weak and unable to continue training today. Ryun interrupts firmly, rejecting weakness as determination replaces confusion inside his expression completely. With steady gaze, Ryun declares himself fine, signaling beginning of his changed future. Ryun asks about training, rejecting rest as determination replaces his previous weakness entirely. Alejandro questions him seriously, testing if Ryun truly remains the same young master. Ryun confirms firmly, standing up despite injuries, showing resolve and readiness for training. He declares identity confidently, recalling regression and realizing this moment offers another chance. Ignoring basic drills, he decides to hunt monsters directly. With sharp eyes, Ryun vows to fix everything, determined to change his fate. Ryun observes mansion exterior, preparing himself as new life begins. A golden status window revealing weak attributes and curse limiting his abilities. Despite limitations, Ryun confirms possession skill remains usable. In training yard, Goblin appears suddenly, roaring loudly as it charges toward Ryun. Ryun stands firm, gripping sword as Goblin rushes closer with violent momentum forward. Observers watch nervously while Goblin swings wildly, testing Ryun's current strength and reactions. Colin urges Alejandro to stopping fight, believing Ryun too weak after recent condition. Ryun moves differently now, avoiding attack while recalling experience from previous lifetime battles. With focused eyes, Ryun realizes improvement, understanding he can now fight effectively. System warnings appear as Ryun's curse activates, amplifying fear. A demonic presence manifests behind him, intensifying pressure. Alejandro attempts ending training, sensing danger, but Ryun remains focused despite rising instability. Ryun rejects stopping, stepping forward again as determination overrides fear. The Goblin charges aggressively, forcing Ryun to react quickly despite trembling body and mind. Ryun forcing control over fear while preparing precise counterattack. He reminds himself he is no longer weak, refusing to repeat past. Facing single Goblin, Ryun gathers courage, recognizing threat is minor. As demonic aura rises behind him, Ryun advances forward, embracing power. Ryun striking Goblin down as Alejandro and Colin react with shock. System confirms curse weakened, reducing fear effect after Ryun overcomes mental pressure. Ryun notices change immediately, realizing fear toward monsters no longer controls his actions. Stands confidently, he requesting proper sword as his attitude shifts. Alejandro observing Ryun's transformation while Colin reacts with surprise and concern. Ryun smiles slightly, showing confidence as he prepares for more intense challenges ahead. Goblin attacks again, but Ryun moves faster, positioning himself for precise finishing strike. With clean motion, Ryun cuts through enemy, demonstrating skill. Alejandro acknowledges Ryun's change, recognizing emergence of true heir within declining Sermon family. Ryun washes his face, calming himself while reflecting on recent battle and growth. Looking into mirror, he confirms system assistance helped him overcome curse influence slightly. He realizes growth is possible now, strengthening resolve. System shows experience gained, but Ryun notices progress remains far too slow currently. He calculates future threats, understanding countless monsters must be defeated. Recalling coming disaster, Ryun prepares himself. Sermon collapse is limited. Ryun studies current situation, confirming enemies have not yet begun their schemes actively. He recognizes brief window exists, allowing preparation before inevitable downfall begins unfolding soon. Clenching fist, Ryun determined to rewrite his family's fate. Ryun clenches fist, deciding to test new method for gaining power. A red-haired woman arrives, her presence commanding attention. They meet formally, Ryun preparing to begin next step toward growth and strength. The woman reveals herself as Serena, powerful Sermon's mage captain. She questions Ryun's request, doubting his ability due to his known lack talents. Ryun remains calm, knowing his condition has changed beyond previous limitations. He explains curse suppressed his talents, preventing growth in magic and swordsmanship. Now sensing change, he wonders if he can perceive mana for first time. Serena reacts with shock, realizing Ryun may have awakened unexpected potential suddenly. A teacup reflects mana light as Serena prepares demonstration. A blazing red dragon manifests above Serena, formed entirely from controlled mana. Ryun observes calmly, recognizing illusion while maintaining composed expression without surprise shown. Serena turns sharply, shocked Ryun identified dragon correctly. Despite his supposed limitations, she questions change. Realizing Ryun's perception surpasses expected ability from cursed bloodline, Serena suspects deeper understanding of mana beyond what she previously taught him. Ryun addresses Serena directly, acknowledging limits while explaining inability to refine mana. He requests her assistance, recognizing refinement method as essential for future growth. Serena realizing Ryun already attempted refinement, confirming his unusual determination. Then Serena warns Ryun that mana refinement risks his life if guided improperly. Ryun accepts danger calmly, understanding consequences while maintaining unwavering determination toward growth. He insists only Serena can help, trusting her despite past suffering endured. Ryun recalls previous life where Serena protected him despite exhaustion. Even as mana depleted, she continued fighting, safeguarding him until her final moments. Remembering this, Ryun calls her name, reaffirming trust. Serena hesitates, surprised by his trust, yet accepts responsibility placed upon her now. Ryu kneels and prepares himself, focusing mind as energy begins gathering within body. With resolve, he begins Blue Earth refinement method, stepping toward new future path. Serena begins guiding mana, directing flow precisely while Ryun concentrates deeply inside, Ryun understanding method while energy circulates through his body. Serena warns about pain, instructing Ryun to endure without resistance. Ryun experiences intense pain as mana surges violently, overwhelming his fragile body. Memories of torture resurface, mixing with present agony as his body convulses uncontrollably. Despite suffering, Ryun forces himself to endure, refusing to abandon refinement process. Ryun declares trust again, strengthening resolve while Serena steadies her control firmly. Serena pushing mana deeper as Ryun's body reacts violently again. Energy erupts throughout Ryun, signaling breakthrough. A system message appears as Arkan's curse activates, disrupting Ryun's internal mana flow. Ryun's body convulses violently as mana scatters uncontrollably. Serena reacts quickly, channeling more mana to stabilize Ryun despite worsening condition. Ryun realizes curse overwhelms mana, but trusts Adion method to counterbalance effect. He forces scattered mana outward, attempting controlled circulation. Ryun manipulates flow, precisely attempting to deceive curse and maintain internal balance. Serena observes scattered mana stabilizing outside Ryun, shocked by unexpected control display. System messages repeat activation, yet Ryun resists curse through continuous mana circulation. Heat intensifies as mana flows through body, burning pathways while strengthening control. Ryun refuses to yield, enduring pain while recalling countless battles survived before. Memories of fighting monsters surface, strengthening his resolve. He declares mastery of Adion, asserting dominance through experience. Ryun's mana surges violently, surpassing normal limits as his understanding deepens rapidly. He realizes control stems from soul, not body, reshaping his entire perception. Facing Arkan's presence mentally, Ryun challenges Demon King. Energy explodes outward as Ryun breaks limits, releasing immense power from within. Serena watches in shock as Ryun's body withstands force beyond expectations completely. After surge ends, Ryun collapses forward, exhausted yet surviving the dangerous refinement process. Ryun recalling past torture while forcing himself to remain conscious. Memories of imprisonment resurface, showing his broken body surrounded by enemies observing him. As they discuss experiments, Ryun regains awareness, preparing to act despite injuries. An intruder suddenly attacks, cutting through enemies swiftly while blood scatters everywhere violently. Ryun watches in shock as chaos erupts, sensing unexpected rescue unfolding rapidly nearby. Outside under moonlight, the aftermath reveals escape route forming amid confusion. Ryun weakly looks up, seeing familiar figure approaching through battlefield filled with blood. Alejandro appears injured yet determined, reaching Ryun despite arriving later than expected. Ryun recognizes him instantly, realizing salvation has come through trusted allies' intervention. Alejandro apologizes while bleeding, showing failure to protect Ryun earlier. Ryun cries silently, overwhelmed by memories of loss and suffering from past events. He awakens suddenly, realizing scene ended, leaving emotional weight lingering within him. Ryun resolving to prevent tragedies he once helplessly witnessed. He acknowledges enemies remain powerful, especially Fatan beyond his current strength level. Ryun prepares next step, deciding to acquire resources necessary for rebuilding family strength. Ryun completes a powerful dark ritual, summoning an armored undead entity, with his back bare and arms raised. He stands within the summoning circle as the system notifies his success in creating a special undead. As the summoned creature opens its glowing eyes, the system asks Ryun to name his newly formed undead under the moonlit tower. A massive explosion erupts from the tower, catching nearby cloaked figures off guard with a violent shockwave. Startled, the men question the sudden blast and the whereabouts of young Master Sons. From the smoke and debris, a dark silhouette emerges, signaling a shift in control and the appearance of Ryun. Ryun, now possessing Sun's body, steps forward with a corrupted aura, shocking his former allies. They call out to Sons, unaware of Ryun's control. He accuses them of betrayal from within the Phaeton family. Furious, he reveals his tortured state and the internal betrayal, demanding recognition of his suffering. An ally reveals they used an artifact to trap the undead, temporarily intending to escape with Ryun. He mounts a horse and instructs others to buy time while he returns to the family with reinforcements. The remaining soldiers stay behind, preparing for battle as Ryun is taken away. The group watches Ryun's escape under the moonlight, realizing the gravity of the situation. A flashback shows this as the final moment they witnessed young Master Sons before the possession. In the present, the Phaeton family's seventh circle mage, Pyres, is informed of the incident. Pyres receives a troubling report stating no trace of Ake was found inside the facility. He clenches the report tightly, sensing deception and foul play surrounding the incident. With sharp eyes and a menacing grin, he questions if the present soldiers are the only ones who know what happened. A subordinate nervously responds, but fear spreads as a red-armored warrior suddenly strikes one of them. Blood sprays across the room as the enforcer ruthlessly kills the witness without hesitation. Pyres coldly states that Sun's Phaeton's disappearance is a major issue, but there is something worse. He explains that if rumors spread about Phaeton's involvement in Ryun's sermon's kidnapping, it will become political. Another soldier attempts to stop Pyres, raising his weapon in warning. The soldier charges forward, but Pyres remains calm as the man falls injured from a defensive counter. Under the moonlight, Alejandro storms toward the facility. His presence shocks the guards and his aura radiates killing intent. He demands answers, threatening to slaughter everyone if Ryun isn't returned. He accuses Phaeton's forces of provoking war by entering his territory unannounced. Alejandro is convinced of Ryun's capture and demands his immediate release. With evidence of a hidden facility and Ryun's disappearance, tensions rise as both sides prepare for conflict. The investigation team from the Sermon family requests access to assist in the search, but Pyres immediately shuts them down. He firmly states that the investigation must proceed undisturbed. Refusing outside interference, both sides prepare their mana. Tension rising as conflict threatens to break out at any moment. Truno, observing from a distance, notes the unexpected arrival of Phaeton troops and fears escalation. Sena descends in flames, calling the observer a traitor for speaking out of turn. She warns that only the young master's order is keeping her from turning him to ashes. She commands silence unless the words concern Ryun's search, emphasizing the young master left a hidden trace. Skepticism arises about finding a trace in such a remote place, but Sina insists it's tied to Sermon's secret technique. The special refinement method should have produced residual energy detectable with the right skill. Using green magic, Sina scans the area, unleashing a powerful energy pulse that pierces the darkness. Her eyes lock onto something as a green beam reveals a concealed presence. She confirms it. Ryun's energy trail has been found deep in the woods. They discover Sun's Phaeton suspended in magical restraints surrounded by eerie green light. A message carved into his chest confesses to the kidnapping, directing blame to himself. Beside him lies a sealed magical letter, awaiting discovery. Sina checks for any signs of Ryun, but the only clue is a sealed letter near Sun's restrained body. She reads it aloud, recognizing Ryun's handwriting and personal message addressed to Sena. Ryun explains he had considered using Sun's body to destroy the Phaeton family from within, but feared detection due to their high-ranking mages. He writes that returning to Sermon openly could trigger war, and the family cannot withstand conflict now. Weighing his options, Ryun chooses a third path to vanish from both families for now. Before leaving, he writes this final letter, hoping Sina will understand his choice and silence any accusations. Truno asks what the letter says, and Sina gives a brief summary. They decide to return to the Sermon estate to regroup. As the letter burns in magical flames, a messenger bird soars into the sky toward its destination. At sunrise, a young boy named Lion races through a busy town square. He is summoned by the guild leader to meet someone. Sena, still convinced, believes it will be the key to finding Ryun's true whereabouts. Lion confirming he knows the young master's location. With a glowing green eye, he declares who is the young master. He is one other than the Dragon of Dre, Under the vast night sky, a luminous full moon shone brightly over a quiet forest village. Stars flickered as the wind rustled a few scattered leaves. Nestled among trees, a wooden inn stood warmly lit. A cloaked figure approached the entrance in silence, their posture calm but the air tense with expectation. Inside, a sharp-eyed girl observed a nearby group of adventurers. She recognized their naivety at once, noting how unprepared they were for the dungeon ahead. Her attention shifted to their formation. They leaned heavily on a mage draped in red, a clear sign they lacked balance and overestimated magic alone. Scoffing quietly, the girl dismissed them as typical adventurers too reliant on flashy power, ignoring the essentials, true professionals. She believed trained for survival, not spectacle. Suddenly, the tavern's wooden door creaked open. A hooded elder woman stepped inside, her cane tapping softly. The elderly woman introduced herself as Sarman, the client seeking the Steel Shield Mercenary Company. Her voice was calm but firm. She revealed her identity, the same woman who lived at the village outskirts with trembling hands. She poured a mountain of coins before the mercenaries, everything she owned. This mission was personal. Her request was simple yet heavy: defeat the mage residing on the distant mountain and recover her son's body. She wanted to give him a proper burial under the sun. The team stared in silence at the glittering coins. Though their faces betrayed hesitation, the lure of gold began to dull their doubts. One mercenary nodded solemnly in agreement. He declared that Steel Shield does not accept failure. The request would be completed without error. But despite his words, doubt crept in about the low reward. Whispers of protest rose. One member murmured that the pay felt too small for such a deadly task. Another outright called it a ripoff, clearly unimpressed by sentiment alone. Realizing the hesitation, Sarman offered something more. From beneath her cloak, she presented a gold ring, an heirloom she once meant for her daughter-in-law. She pleaded one final time, stating that the ring would be theirs if they brought her son's body back. The ring shimmered, revealing a hidden magic within it. A system message appeared before one of the members. The quest log updated Veda's legacy. Along with it came a glowing map marking the location of the hero's soul. As the magical quest log updated, one of the mercenaries froze mid-reaction. Suspicion stirred among the group as the quietest member stared intensely at the glowing notification with widened eyes. Without speaking, the man's gaze darkened. His expression grew focused, brows furrowing. Whatever he saw had shifted something in him instantly. Snatching the heirloom ring, the group's leader held it high, though one companion scoffed at the idea of accepting another cheap ring. The leader declared their discussion over the payment was sufficient. The leader stood and issued commands decisively. As he moved toward the exit, the team scrambled to follow, surprised by his sudden urgency and resolve, declaring that the Steel Shield Mercenary Company was mobilizing. He led the group out behind him. The others had no choice but to follow despite confusion. Amazed by his good fortune, the leader smirked while inspecting the ring. Finding such a powerful item in an isolated village was beyond expectation. A true stroke of luck. Far from the inn, moonlight bathed the mountain range as cold winds stirred the trees. The mercenaries pressed forward, having now reached the dungeon's perimeter. At the edge of the magical circle, one of the team asked for an appraisal. Glowing glyphs surrounded the ring as the mage began an inspection. After a pause, she confirmed the ring held magic, but she couldn't yet determine its purpose. Its enchantments were far beyond her identification skill. With curiosity rising, she concluded that an item of this level was worth further exploration. It might carry a deeper function or hidden power. The others saw it as confirmation. For such a minor target, the reward already surpassed expectations. Eliminating a countryside mage seemed far too easy. Their leader looked back toward the dungeon entrance under the moonlight. He grinned at the fortune ahead, unaware of the deeper danger awaiting them. Still driven by greed, the red-haired mage speculated aloud. A dungeon might mean more treasures, hidden relics, magical weapons, or ancient artifacts. Their captain remained confident. Even a low-tier mage wouldn't build a dungeon without possessing something of worth. He urged the others to press on quickly. From behind a tree, a cloaked figure watched in silence. Their presence went unnoticed by the passing group, but their calm smile hinted at knowledge of what truly lay ahead. While moving through the woods, the cloaked girl criticized the mercenaries' careless approach. Charging into unknown territory without collecting proper intelligence made them easy targets for dungeon traps. She turned to her companion, remarking that the mercenaries' expressions revealed their inexperience. They lacked fundamental training, and even their body language betrayed overconfidence. Her tone shifted as she included the boy walking beside her in her assessment. She viewed him more as an observer than a direct contributor, suspecting he was not here just to assist. The boy warned her not to become overly confident either. He reminded her that the strange ring and magic the mercenaries received weren't ordinary, suggesting a deeper threat. She pieced together the truth he hadn't joined them casually. His pursuit of the group had a purpose, sparked by the unusual magical energy involved in their quest. A realization crossed her mind. He wasn't merely someone offering support. His motivation and knowledge marked him as someone far beyond the role he appeared to play. Smirking, the girl teased a dark solution: eliminate the mercenaries and take the rewards for themselves. The suggestion was half in jest but hinted at her calculating nature. The boy reacted with unease. Although her words were bold, he rejected the idea immediately. He drew a clear line between assassins and criminals. He reminded her that blindly stealing what others possessed crossed into banditry. Killing for gain alone lacked the code he followed in his silent trade. As wind swept over the mountains, the two figures continued moving through the moonlit forest, following the mercenaries' trail. They watched as the Steel Shield Company approached a glowing stone arch, the dungeon's entrance pulsing with energy. Arcane symbols flared as it activated. The girl stopped beside the boy, gazing ahead without emotion. She confirmed what lay before them: a dungeon, and possibly the turning point of their pursuit. Under the bright full moon, a rocky hill stands silent while leaves rustle in the night wind. Hidden within the shadows of the trees, a hooded blue-haired youth narrows his eyes in irritation as the pink-haired girl beside him continues speaking. Stepping closer from behind, the pink-haired girl raises a finger playfully, whispering near his ear. The hooded youth lifts his hand and examines a ring set with a glowing emblem, recalling that it suppresses sound and presence. Standing behind him, the girl smiles with confidence, reminding him of his rising reputation within the guild. Clasping her hands together, she beams with excitement at the thought of his rapid promotion. Meanwhile, he remains reserved, clearly more focused on strategy than praise. A grim memory flashes in his mind, showing a furious accusation tied to a past assassination. Inside a guild hall, two red-haired members stand before a towering pile of gold coins placed on a table. Back beneath the night sky, the girl faces him closely and questions the scale of the payment. He meets her gaze calmly, aware that the amount could shift guild politics. A shining golden number appears in his imagination, symbolizing 100 gold offered for the mission. Shock briefly stiffens his posture at the sheer value. As she speculates about how the payment was divided, he mentally calculates the guild's share after fees. Turning slightly away, he begins to reconsider the situation, sensing manipulation behind the generous funding. Coins and roses swirl in a symbolic image behind him, representing the fallen Rose family's bold move. An elegant woman surrounded by roses appears in his thoughts, suggesting calculated strategy rather than coincidence. Suddenly, the girl presses a finger to her lips, signaling silence as they stand close together in the forest. A glowing blue portal pulses within a rocky cliff as several mercenaries step toward it without caution. Energy swirls violently at the gateway, forming sharp arcs of light that slice through the darkness. A close look at the youth's eyes reveals firm resolve as he concludes there is only one course of action. Holding up a promotion document and a ring marked with a purple gem, he recalls how a map connected to the hero's soul appeared during his guild advancement. Under the moonlight, a noble figure stands near a large estate, hinting at unseen influence behind the quest. Lowering his gaze, he recognizes that the timing leaves no alternative path. What seemed accidental now appears orchestrated to push him toward this dungeon. A symbolic graph rises sharply behind him as he analyzes the meaning of the hero's soul map. The quest's difficulty clearly exceeds normal standards. Purple light forms a translucent interface in his hand, reflecting the system's rigid structure. Shock flickers across his face as he senses the system evolving into something closer to the ruthless Adian structure he once knew. Standing before the portal, both figures watch the spinning blue core intensify with unstable power. Dark energy erupts outward, engulfing the forest path in violent waves. The sudden disturbance signals that something inside has gone terribly wrong. Clenching his jaw, the youth identifies the distant cries of mercenaries trapped within. Their screams confirm that the dungeon has turned lethal. Steel clashes sharply as silhouettes exchange rapid strikes near the entrance. The pair remain steady. A fiery explosion bursts outward, scattering debris across the clearing. The shockwave forces them to brace against the force. Through smoke and sparks, a red-haired mage stands with staff raised, seemingly responsible for the blast. Silence falls over the forest as the sounds of battle suddenly cease beyond the glowing entrance. The girl checks a pocket watch while blue light from the portal flickers across her face. The youth calculates the outcome. A grim red image of blood and a fallen staff fills his thoughts, reinforcing the scale of danger inside. Without hesitation, he announces their decision to enter immediately. Surprise flashes across the girl's face at his sudden resolve. Green energy gathers around his hand as he explains that previously triggered traps are unlikely to activate again so soon. Confidence replaces doubt as he prepares to analyze the dungeon's mechanisms. Stepping forward, he releases a controlled aura of earth, aligned power that surrounds both of them. A sharp warning from the girl halts him, just as he extends his glowing hand toward the entrance. She reminds him of his own claim about trap timing. In response, he reinforces his energy with greater precision, activating the earth-tempering method before proceeding. An enormous magic circle ignites beneath his feet, radiating complex patterns into the darkness. The air vibrates as hidden mechanisms react to his presence. Red mist spreads through the cavern as he identifies the phenomenon as illusion magic rather than a direct attack. A crimson moon appears in his vision, casting unnatural light over the dungeon entrance. The realization shifts the timeline in his mind, placing the beginning of the disaster 20 minutes earlier. Amid fiery debris within the dungeon, a battered man struggles to breathe. Blood stains his face as faint laughter escapes him despite severe injuries. Flames flicker around his exhausted figure while embers drift through the air. Though barely standing, the wounded survivor's strained breaths echo in the burning corridor, proving that at least one mercenary remains alive. Inside the burning dungeon, a mercenary captain with glowing purple eyes swings his sword wildly while flames rise behind him. Moments later, he stands amid fallen subordinates, gripping his blade while fire surrounds the chamber. Elsewhere in the cavern, the hooded youth and the pink-haired girl observe a glowing magic circle on the ground. An illustration in his mind shows a mage stepping into a hidden circle while other fighters advance, unaware they are already affected. Nearby, physical traps such as spike pits remain untouched, proving the victims focused on visible dangers. Turning serious, the youth concludes that the mercenaries lack the skill to detect advanced magical traps. Under a purple sky and a full moon, a massive rock arch frames a swirling pink portal that tears through the forest clearing. Magical energy spreads outward in violent waves, bending trees and shaking the ground as the gate fully opens. From within the glowing magic circle beneath the portal, two figures descend. Arcane symbols rotate under their feet while violet currents coil around their bodies, signaling a force summoning into a dangerous battlefield. A red-haired mage with glasses looks up in alarm as the surroundings distort. Realizing the ritual has drawn hostile forces, she urgently calls for everyone to halt while dark energy pillars rise around the group. An older warrior's face tightens as black veins spread across his skin and his eyes glow red, revealing corruption taking hold of him. Steel collides in a burst of sparks as blades crash together. The possessed man launches a sudden strike, overpowering the nearest fighter with brutal force. The corrupted warrior drives his weapon forward and wounds an ally at close range. Shock spreads through the party as they recognize their leader has turned into something monstrous. A shadowed figure steps forward behind the chaos, gripping a sword while pink energy coils around him. He advances toward the corrupted man with lethal intent. Blood sprays across the stone floor as another party member is cut down from behind. The ambush exposes how quickly the dungeon has descended into confusion. The red-haired mage studies the scene rapidly, concluding that illusion magic is manipulating perception and turning allies against each other. Flames gather around the mage's hands as she prepares a controlled blast, ordering her companion to guard her while she completes the spell. A blazing projectile forms and launches forward, streaking through the corridor toward the approaching monsters. The explosion erupts violently, filling the dungeon with fire and shock waves that force the creatures back. As the fire spreads, several bird-like monsters charge through the flames, refusing to retreat. One creature lunges downward with claws extended, aiming directly at the blue-haired swordsman amid the burning debris. In the aftermath, the illusion magic destabilizes and the dungeon's own monsters begin attacking each other, turning the battlefield into uncontrolled chaos. At the edge of a shattered stone floor, the blue-haired young man and the pink-haired woman stand over a deep crater stained with blood. Faint green light glows beneath his hand as he studies the broken ground and the scattered traces left behind. Turning his gaze toward the dark corridor, he observes the heavy blood trail leading further inside. The wounds appear severe, yet he senses no departing souls, concluding that the victims were taken alive. After examining the floor carefully, he notes the absence of drag marks. The lack of physical traces suggests the involvement of magic rather than brute force. Deeper within the dungeon, a knight stands before the corpse of a mage left behind among rubble. The body's condition implies deliberate selection rather than random slaughter. Behind the investigator, the pink-haired woman watches as he channels mana into the ground, analyzing residual energy. He determines that the footprints resemble human steps, though subtly altered. As she recalls earlier warnings about traps activating before entry, Doubt spreads across her expression. The situation appears more complex than a simple monster attack. The young man gestures for clarification, prompting a robed elder figure to appear in recollection. Purple light frames the image of a scholar explaining the dungeon's origin. Through narration, the history unfolds. Goma once built an artificial dungeon for research and training, conducting experiments in isolation. Although he lived peacefully near the village, suspicion arose when men began disappearing. Eventually, he sealed himself inside the dungeon and was never seen again. Raising a finger, the blue-haired investigator outlines the central issue. The dungeon, the outside magic, and the missing villagers must be connected. The pink-haired woman reacts with alarm, considering whether trained monsters were used for abductions. However, such creatures would have left obvious tracks. Images of powerful beasts flash in contrast to the subtle footprints discovered earlier. This discrepancy strengthens the theory that humans are responsible. With a hardened expression, the young man concludes that the kidnappers are most likely human. He reasons that only human accomplices could conceal their movements so carefully within the dungeon. The investigation shifts direction as suspicion settles on Goma's possible allies operating from outside the sealed dungeon. The blue-haired investigator concludes that only someone familiar with both the village and the dungeon could abduct grown men without leaving evidence. In his deduction, such a person would secretly transport the captives alive into the depths while shifting blame onto Goma. A vision forms in his mind of rumors spreading through the village, pushing mercenaries and adventurers to enter the dungeon in search of the missing. Those hired to investigate would unknowingly walk into a prepared trap. Flashes of past battles and fallen fighters cross his thoughts, reinforcing his belief that previous groups were deliberately led to their deaths to maintain the deception. Standing beside him, the pink-haired mage listens as he clarifies that this remains a hypothesis. He admits uncertainty about why only men are targeted and what purpose lies beneath the dungeon. Before advancing further, he decides to confirm the dungeon's interior using a specialized skill. Green energy gathers at his fingertips as he prepares to release it. Ghostly figures swirl around him when the skill activates, sending a fragment of his soul forward to scout hidden sections of the labyrinth. The phantom travels through layered corridors, revealing that the dungeon is unusually deep and structured to conceal undetectable chambers. A glowing presence appears beyond the map paths, suggesting an area masked from normal perception. From this discovery, he concludes that someone is plotting something significant within those concealed spaces. He states that reaching this point likely exceeded the culprit's expectations. The pink-haired mage declares her intention to step in despite the danger. Turning serious, he warns that the threat level surpasses standard evaluation and could cost her life. Despite his suggestion that she return to the village, she refuses to retreat from the unfolding crisis. The investigator reveals that abandoning the mission would jeopardize his promotion test and interfere with a larger objective he is pursuing. After a brief silence, the mage resolves to accompany him rather than withdraw. With firm determination, she declares that fleeing would disgrace her guild's name, choosing to face the hidden mastermind together. The blue-haired assassin observes the pink-haired guild member's determination, and quietly notes how unusual such devotion is for someone in a support role. As they descend deeper into the dungeon, a glowing purple sphere materializes ahead, suspended within jagged rock. Inside the orb far beneath them, an older man peers into the crystal ball with a twisted grin. Recognizing their affiliation, he reacts with irritation. A pink-haired girl stands confidently with her hands on her hips, looking back with a bright and fearless expression, clearly expecting protection from her companion, while treating the situation lightly. Below her, a blue-haired girl wrapped in a scarf stares ahead with a stiff and uneasy face, overwhelmed by the sudden responsibility placed on her. Inside a dim cavern glowing with purple light, the blue-haired girl senses a powerful presence above while the pink-haired girl reacts loudly in surprise, unaware of the danger forming overhead. Deep within a hidden chamber, a glowing violet sphere reveals the two girls trapped inside its magical barrier, their figures distorted by the surface of the crystal. An older man wearing a hat and round glasses watches the sphere closely, his face tense as he realizes intruders have reached a place meant to be unreachable. Sweat forms on his face as anger replaces shock, and he recognizes that the security of his stronghold has been breached by enemies he did not anticipate. Turning sharply, the man questions the intelligence he received, doubting whether the expected assassin was truly the threat sent after him. Frustration erupts as he slams his hand down, cracking the surface beneath him while magical energy bursts outward. Within the sphere, shards of light scatter as the girls remain standing, proving that the elaborate traps surrounding the area are being dismantled one by one. From behind, the man faces a large containment tank filled with green liquid, where a horned creature floats silently as the result of his secret experiments. The monstrous being opens glowing eyes and reveals sharp teeth, responding to the disturbance with violent intent. A surge of green energy spirals through the chamber, signaling the creature's release and the escalation of the conflict. The pink-haired girl finishes disabling a trap mechanism, smiling with satisfaction after successfully neutralizing the threat in the tunnel. Red warning signals fade around her as she confirms that the devices in the current section will remain inactive for a short time. Standing beside her, the blue-haired girl quietly acknowledges the success, recognizing that her companion's skills are far more impressive than she first believed. The blue-haired girl warns that the dungeon is layered with more than simple mechanical traps, her sharp gaze scanning the dark corridor while the pink-haired girl turns back with a confident smile. Without hesitation, the pink-haired girl raises a glowing mana stone, revealing a compressed core of magical energy stored inside refined ore. Kneeling to the ground, she channels the stone's power into a magic circle, carefully tracing and cutting the surrounding mana flow as bright pink currents surge outward under her control. Waves of vivid energy spread down the passage, illuminating the walls as the unstable magical circuits begin to collapse one by one. A violent burst erupts above them when a hidden trap is forcefully dismantled, showing the precision required to sever mana without triggering destruction. Rising to her feet, the pink-haired girl signals completion with a proud expression, while the blue-haired girl watches quietly, acknowledging the skill involved. As they continue deeper, the pink-haired girl asks one final time whether her companion intends to turn back, sensing the increasing danger ahead. Despite the warning, she insists on staying, admitting that retreating alone would be more frightening than advancing together. In the shadows behind them, several wolf-like creatures with glowing eyes gather silently, drawn by the lingering mana in the air. The blue-haired girl questions her claim of fear, recalling the strange presence that previously drove mercenaries away from the area. Her eyes sharpen with sudden awareness as she senses movement directly behind the pink-haired girl. Towering beasts emerge from the darkness, their luminous eyes fixed on the unaware target standing in front of them. One of the creatures lunges forward with jaws wide open, aiming to tear into its prey in a single strike. In an instant, the blue-haired girl steps in front and cuts through the attacking beast, her motions swift and controlled as the body collapses behind her. Peeking from behind her protector, the pink-haired girl stares at the fallen monster in disbelief, realizing that the true threat lurking in the dungeon is far more dangerous than expected. Green mana spirals around the blue-haired girl as she forms a complex magic circle in front of her, concluding that the disappearances in the village are linked to the creatures stalking this dungeon. Far away, the old man watches through a glowing crystal sphere, observing her movements with growing interest as the barrier reflects her controlled power. A twisted smile spreads across his face as he mocks her progress, confident that his creation, the Ratman, cannot be completely eradicated. The blue-haired girl deflects sharp green strikes, while recalling that Ratmen were artificial beings once thought erased after the Great War between dark and light factions. In a hidden laboratory, horned figures float inside glass tanks filled with green fluid, proof that forbidden research has continued in secret. Sweat forms on her face as she acknowledges that these specimens are real and fully active, confirming that someone revived the lost method of creation. She lunges forward, slicing through a charging Ratman as debris and shattered stone scatter from the force of her attack. A faint smirk appears on her face, revealing experience gained from countless past battles against similar monsters. Memories of relentless combat surface briefly, showing her cutting down wave after wave of beasts without hesitation. Her body moves fluidly through the swarm, blades of green mana carving clean arcs across multiple enemies at once. Blood splashes across the stone floor as the Ratman collapse, unable to withstand her precise and overwhelming strikes. Behind her, the pink-haired girl watches in awe, realizing that this level of skill far exceeds ordinary mercenaries. In the control room, the old man grips the crystal sphere tightly as cracks spread across its surface. From the strain of her assault, shock replaces his confidence when he recognizes that she fights Ratman with practiced ease, something only a seasoned assassin could achieve. Standing within a towering chamber of violet light, he refuses to surrender his research, determined to protect the secrets hidden at the dungeon's core. A violent clash fills the upper chamber as a massive beast lunges through streaks of green and gold light, its body twisting mid-air while a glowing magic circle flares beneath it. Below the chaos, a ritual platform carved with symbols radiates purple light, and a robed man stands near its edge as power rises like smoke from the center. At the heart of the formation, a thick tome floats above the pedestal, surrounded by rotating sigils and rings of violet script. The man watches the book with unwavering fixation. The older man turns sharply when a tall figure appears at the doorway, framed by a glowing purple entrance that cuts through the dim hall. Stepping forward with steady composure, the newcomer approaches in a long coat and pointed hat, smoke curling from the pipe held between his fingers. Facing the older mage across the ritual platform, he calmly asserts control of the situation. implying that the experiment may continue but under strict conditions. Sweat forms along the older mage's temple as uncertainty replaces his earlier arrogance. Doubt creeps into his expression while he reassesses his position. The younger man studies him with narrowed eyes, a faint smirk forming as smoke drifts upward. Calculation dominates his gaze rather than emotion. A close look at his eyes reveals sharp resolve, reflecting the glow of the ritual circle. Control has subtly shifted in his favor. The floating tome pulses again as restrictions are declared regarding its use, limiting actions beyond research. Symbols flare brightly in response. Standing close to the older mage, the intruder reinforces the boundaries, ensuring safety under his supervision. The height difference emphasizes authority. Mention of a dangerous adversary fails to shake his composure, as he remains steady despite the implied threat. Attention shifts to a blood-stained weapon held in hand, its craftsmanship unusually refined for common origin. The blade's clean lines contrast against the red-stained floor. Nearby, two young figures kneel on the ground, while one explains the abnormal growth rate of rat-like monsters, linking it to the dungeon's instability. Observation concludes that the weapon's quality exceeds the skill of ordinary makers, suggesting involvement from a higher source. Suspicion grows as the mystery deepens. The pink-haired girl stiffens as realization dawns, while the blue-haired youth confirms her fear with a steady gaze. A vision of armed ratmen fills the scene, blades raised in organized ranks instead of chaotic swarms. The formation suggests discipline and intent rather than instinct. Blue-armored figures appear in contrast, symbolizing a completed force built for structured combat. The girl questions the timeline, recalling how long evolution should normally take. In response, the boy introduces the existence of a forbidden method capable of bypassing natural growth. Tall glass chambers glow green as humanoid shapes float inside, their bodies transforming into ratmen through artificial means. Horror strikes the girl as she understands that kidnapped villagers were converted directly into monsters. The realization reframes the dungeon as a laboratory rather than a nest. Elsewhere, an older nobleman expresses dramatic confidence. While the investigation turns toward a powerful household, suspicion begins to focus on a ruling family. A stern swordsman is identified as the one capable of executing such a plan, his rank placing him close to authority. The name of the commander is mentally fixed as the likely executor, linking military strength with forbidden research. The pieces begin aligning around a single faction, standing amid blood-stained floors and shattered equipment. The two investigators survey the aftermath of battle. Scattered weapons reflect resources beyond what common villagers could afford. Close inspection of the blades and traps reveals craftsmanship too refined for a poor territory. Financial limitations make local involvement unlikely. Logical deduction narrows responsibility to someone with wealth and access, excluding the dungeon's creator acting alone. The circle of suspects tightens further. A vision of the Lord looms over shadowed figures, suggesting he sacrificed his own people to fuel the transformation process. The scale of ambition matches the brutality required. Despite the grim conclusion, urgency replaces anger as the pair decide to search for survivors within the dungeon. Time becomes more critical than accusation. The girl studies her companion with narrowed eyes, sensing he knows more about Ratman creation than he admits. The blue-haired youth hesitates while admitting the truth is complicated, unaware of a wounded Ratman rising behind him in the shadows. The pink-haired girl's eyes sharpen instantly, catching the movement before he does. In a single motion, she intercepts the attack, purple force bursting outward as the creature is blown aside. Shock crosses his face when he notices the weapon in her hands, a compact crossbow aimed precisely at the fallen enemy. The Ratman collapses with a bolt embedded cleanly at its center. She casually remarks on her combat training while resting the crossbow against her shoulder. Meanwhile, he studies the wound pattern on the corpse, noting the accuracy of the shot. The bolt is lodged exactly at a vital point despite the dim dungeon lighting. That precision suggests more than basic practice. A thoughtful look settles over him as he reassesses her capabilities. Her skill level quietly challenges his earlier assumptions. As they proceed deeper, he explains the strategic logic behind building an army from Ratmen. Green lights flicker around another trap embedded in the floor. She listens while walking beside him, absorbing the conclusion that only someone with authority and resources would attempt such cruelty. The implication confirms elite involvement. He internally narrows suspicion toward a specific individual, recognizing that the plan exceeds the imagination of common criminals. The girl smiles lightly, announcing they are near the dungeon's core. Her hand extends as she senses concentrated mana gathering ahead. Purple energy swirls in response to her detection, revealing the source powering the traps. The atmosphere thickens with magical density. Both pause simultaneously, alerted by a sudden disturbance in the air. A heavy weapon crashes down from above, striking the ground with explosive force. Dust and light erupt at the impact point. From the swirling darkness emerges a towering ratman ogre. Muscles tense and eyes glowing with violent intent, corrupt mana coils around its body. The beast roars, bearing massive fangs as it prepares to charge. The confrontation at the dungeon's center finally begins.